So here we are again for another podcast, and today it's great to catch up with Laura Clark again from OA. Laura and I know each other reasonably well. I think, on some things we completely agree, on some things we completely disagree, but both of us are passionate about the industry and where to next. I guess for me it's, Laura's someone I admire in the industry. I think she's one of the rising stars in the business, and runs not only a great business at OA, but is very involved at industry level and cares more about that as well, which is great to see people giving back. So, Laura, it's great to talk to you again. Maybe you should do your own introduction.
I can't now. You've done it for me. Thank you, Steve. Thanks for having me as well. I'm Laura Clark, owner of a business called OA Recruitment Solutions, and predominantly temp, high volume, also perm in a variety of different industries. And I think for me, I absolutely adore and extremely passionate about the recruitment industry. I'm involved with the REC, and I just think that it's a brilliant career for people. There is no barrier to entry, and for me, it's about making the industry a great place to work and a better, cleaner industry, because we all know that there is some cleaning up to do as well.
That's true, and actually, like most of our conversations, they're pretty freestyle. So,
yes,
let me ask about that, because you're saying it's a great career. I think it is too. I've always thought it as an opportunity, but it's harder and harder to find people to get into the industry.
Yes,
and I guess there are less and less people that see it maybe the way you do. How come?
I don't know. I think because there is no barrier to entry, anyone can do it. And there has been a time, it's not so much this year, but there have been times, especially in my career, I joined recruitment in 2008, where it's been easy to make money. And it can be done from a bedroom. It can be done without any kind of accreditation, any kind of need for professionalism. And I think that can sometimes give it a bad name. And I don't think we do ourselves any favours either. So, for me, predominantly in the temp world, it's a really high volume space, which can be really difficult on margins. Mm-hmm. And I think businesses that continuously drive margins and do that in an unethical way, which happens loads, by the way, really has an impact on the industry's reputation. But recruitment is a sales job. And I think, we've spoken about this before when it comes to commission and various topics that we've fallen out over before, but life is about sales. Everything that you do in your life, whether it's negotiating a price for your house that you want to move into, it's about sales. And I think that wherever you land in your career, having a base of some sort of sales experience can do you really well. And I think if anything, if people join recruitment and learn that as a basic skill to move on wherever they go, is a really fundamental part of your career. But there is so much opportunity, and it really is about how much you want to put in. And that's what I love about recruitment. You get out exactly what you put in. And I think that's what's helped me progress in my career, because I believe in hard work. And it's a bit of a dirty word, and people think that you shouldn't have to necessarily work hard anymore. But I believe in hard work, and I believe that you get out what you put in.
Excuse me. Yeah, 100%. I agree. I mean, I think one of the things I tell young people when they join the industry, like anyone that joins the industry, is that I don't think I've ever gone to work where it hasn't kind of been more of an opportunity than a job.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what's going to happen in recruitment. Like every time the phone rings or every time I pick up an email, something's gone wrong or something's gone right?
Yeah.
It's never not that sort of business where you can just sort of exist in it.
You can't coast.
You got to make it happen, right?
Yeah.
But I think, you talk about sales, and it's so natural for you to talk about sales, but a lot of people in recruitment are kind of in denial that sales are anything to do with the job.
Yeah. I've been there, by the way. I've
Really?
been there.
Yeah.
I've tried to sell my business to people that I believe will be good and packaged it in another way than sales.
Yeah.
And it doesn't do you any favours. You have to cold call. You have to send out emails. You have to call. You have to kiss many frogs before you get any business done. It's just the nature of it. And I think anyone that says otherwise is lying. It takes many, many years for you to become renowned in your place in recruitment before inbound happens. Obviously, there's marketing, and we can talk about various other methods of sales. But ultimately, it's continuous selling. Even when you've won a client, you have to continue to sell them, to sell to them, because you've got your competitors trying to get the business off you.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's never ending. You're selling to candidates, you're selling to clients, it's a sales job. I just don't know how anyone can see it otherwise.
But why is that such a sort of dirty word for people? Like when you say sales to people, it's like, oh, I don't want to do sales. I mean, that's the hardest part, right? The business development piece in recruitment, people seem to want to get into recruitment without doing business development.
It's not.
How does that work?
Yeah, no, there are different jobs in recruitment that doesn't involve sales. But then even as I say that, I don't know if that's true. You know, in our business, we have large accounts, we have account managers, we have resources, we have people that manage those relationships, but you are still selling. You are still, you know, for me, if I've got a large account that we've won, I want to know who else in the business recruits. That's sales. I want to know how long the contract's for. I want to renegotiate when that contract ends. I want to tell them how good of a job I'm doing all the time to make sure that I can get into the other site they have across the country. Or it is, if you really don't want to sell or be in a sales job, I really don't think recruitment is a place that you should be.
Okay, and I don't want to go to sort of this sort of deep state of philosophy about this, but generational change, right? So your perspective is because of, you know, how you came through and where you're at and you know what works, right? But if you think about the future of work and generational change and people coming out of school and college that are the future of all businesses, how does recruitment make itself more attractive? Because they're the sort of people that want to work remotely. Gen Alpha sort of all start joining the workforce in 2030. And, you know, from all the research I've read, they don't even type. It's all voice activated and stuff. How do we adapt as an industry? How do you adapt as your business to function without people, or in fact function with people that are fit for purpose? Or how do you adapt? Because the old method's not going to work necessarily, is it?
No. I think for me, the only way that you can really adapt to next generations is by hiring them and allowing them to tell you where the business is going. Because I don't know, is the truth.
Yep.
You know, so I have a lot of different age groups that work for me. And I would say on the whole, I think that the generation of, I don't know what it's called, I get confused with all the names, but, you know, the 20-year-olds to 25-year-olds get a really bad reputation. All of the ones that work for me work hard, come into the office, don't want to work hybrid, want to be around people. So I read the research and I hear what's being told to me, but then what I actually see is slightly different.
Yep.
And so I don't know what the future looks like, and I don't want to even try and predict it. I think you hire the younger generation, you allow them to define that for you, because otherwise you're defining on no real knowledge.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for people because it is it's a fun business as well. Like, it's hard and it's competitive, but it's fun. And actually it's interesting. So today you posted about purpose.
Yes.
How important is that, having a purpose for getting the right people in the business, you know, that join for the right reason, not just because it's meant to make you money fast?
Okay. Weirdly, I own the business, right? But I have an outlook. I was talking about this yesterday. I have an outlook that I believe I work for every individual in the company. And so what that means is that I feel like I need to build a business that gives them a sense of belonging.
Yep.
Everyone has a different sense of belonging. Some people want to work from home. Some people want to have, you know, a really great culture to turn up to. And I think you have to have a place and a belonging and a purpose that speaks to the type of people you want to recruit. Every business is like Marmite. Some people are not going to want to work for OA, and I want to recruit the ones that want to be there. I don't think enough businesses really pay attention to that. I think, you know, without anyone wanting to work for OA, I would have nothing. So my purpose as a business owner is to create a place where people feel a sense of purpose. As much as that sounds kind of slightly backwards, I meet so many business owners that go, well, if they don't want to work for me, then this. If they don't want to work for me, then this. Yeah. Well, I feel like I'm employed and owe all these people that choose to turn up and give up their time to work for this business. So that is my main purpose. And that in turn, I think people feel a sense of care and love and belonging. And when times get tough, want to give back because they know I've got their back.
Yeah, and I mean, I know you well enough to know that that's not something you're just saying. You actually live that.
Yeah.
You know, I know that for a fact that you do that, and creating that. That's one of the things that galvanizes, you know, we were talking earlier about the risks of, you know, big recruiters coming and nicking your best people. But I still think that purpose piece is the glue that keeps people there, because in spite of what people may say, they do want to work for a boss or an organisation that understands who they are and actually is aligned to their personal value system.
Yeah.
Because that's more important than you got to go to work and be happy.
I couldn't agree more. I'm not getting out of bed in the morning to be unhappy. And I wouldn't expect anyone else to either.
Yeah.
And if there's any time where people feel that for whatever reason, circumstances change, right? So people that have joined me 10 years ago that decide that happiness looks like something different, that's okay too.
Yep.
And I think you have to stand by that. You have to be okay and look yourself in the mirror and go, do you know what? I know that we're a decent place to work. We really care for our people and listen, and we want a sense of belonging. And I think that speaks more than any fruit or any pay rises or any good commission schemes. You know, I actually got picked apart recently in a WhatsApp group because we're talking about commission schemes, and our commission scheme is fair, but it's not lucrative, and it's not unfair. But I had someone comment and say, well, you must have people leaving all the time. I'm coughing now. And we don't, touch wood, because I don't think people leave for money, as we said earlier.
Yeah, well, I mean, the old ad, people leave their boss, not their job, right?
Yeah.
But again, I you know, you probably don't start me on the commission thing.
I know.
Yeah, because that's yeah, that's my kind of Achilles heel. But I guess my thing with commission and stuff in recruitment and probably other sales roles is that the idea of it seems more attractive than the reality for people, because if commission was such a big driver for people, then why don't they put in the extra shift required to earn it?
Yeah.
And most agencies that I work with in my role, you know, you get trampled at 4:00 now, and Fridays leave early. And, you know, when I don't want to have some sort of bad grandfather story here, but, you know, we used to stay late. You know, we would, because I could make enough money, more money, if I just worked harder than everybody else.
Yeah.
So the commission did motivate me to stay late, work harder, but it doesn't seem to have the same sort of charisma that it used to have as a thing, because people just don't, you know, they'd rather get free bananas and a bowl of fruit in the office than stay till 8:00 in order to ring candidates or to match jobs or to plan the next day. They're just not going to do it. So therefore, I often wonder about the effectiveness of it. You know, like recruitment's a business where you can earn as much money as you want.
It is, yeah.
If you work hard enough.
And if you're motivated by money.
Yeah, that's right. So they say they are, but are they? You know, and that's my challenge to people. You know, I've had lots of good discussions. As you know, it's my favourite topic, so I won't go there today. We're also not going to talk about AI.
No, because we had a ban on that. Although we were talking about it.
Yeah, because everyone talks about AI.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the market for a second, right? Because I'd love to get your perspective on the market, because I read so much stuff. You know, it's been tough, it's been terrible, and it's almost like a sad convention amongst recruiters, you know, online, and everyone's hopeful that there's going to be some bounce in October, you know, Q4. This is it. We're back. You know, it's all going to be great. But
back.
What's the reality? How do you see it?
I think it's back to normal. I think we had a couple of years after COVID where you would actually not want to pick up business because it was that easy, because there was such a candidate shortage, and people got complacent. I think those that joined the industry during that period also didn't really understand what fighting for new business felt like and looked like. So there's a lot of people that have left the industry that joined at that time. I weirdly really enjoy it when it's slightly more challenging. I think it's when you see the best out of yourself, the best out of your leaders. I think it's when you find things tough is when you really test the type of leader and person that you are. I don't like excuses, so I don't want to blame the market as to why we've not had the best year that we've ever had. But equally, I think that you've got to celebrate the wins that you've achieved and the moves that you've made to make your business robust. So look, for us, we had massive growth plans this year. We didn't hit them. You know, nothing, I'm not going to bounce back in my last quarter enough to hit the number that I want. If I do that, it'd be great. But I think that as an industry, those that have got complacent this year are going to really struggle into next year. And I think that there are, so for us, for example, we've won more new clients this year than we had last year. And the clients that we've won are just spending less money on recruitment. So when there is an uptick in the market, you would like to think that we're going to position ourselves in a much stronger place. it's really difficult managing a business where the motivation needs to be high, but the reward is quite low. So that's one thing this year that I've found that we've had to really play with. We've really had to think about how do we keep our people interested and want to work here whilst they're not earning great commission or whilst they're not hitting their targets. So I think bigger business might struggle because they can't be as agile. We've been able to be agile and move quick and see opportunities, and we've had some really great things happen in the last few months, which hopefully will come into play next year. But as the market as a whole, look, you'd be blind and stupid if you thought that it has been a brilliant year for recruitment. All of the numbers, all of the perm figures, all of the temp numbers are down. But there's still plenty of business out there. You just got to eat someone else's lunch, right?
Yeah, and that's there's a few things there I'd love to unpack a bit. One of the things is I think you launched the solutions business a few years ago, and I think that's been a great credit to you, but also a big success, right, in terms of your business. And actually, when you look at your overall business, it's a material part of what you do. And solutions, I mean by that an MSP RPO solution for your clients. I mean, what was the inspiration behind doing that, and has that actually been a masterstroke in the end?
So the mastermind was that when I was involved in the business before I bought the business out, we had one particular client that took up a massive amount of our revenue. And I really struggled to sleep at night with that. Having one client that's worth 50% of your income is quite a worry, right? And so we decided, and that was almost like a organic client growth that we didn't intentionally go out and win. We started working with them, they grew, we grew with them, and it was like a partnership. And then we were like, hey, we should really be doing something with this. This is a great story that we could tell, and let's take it to market. And that's exactly what we did. And there are other players, there are other competition. But what we do slightly different is that we don't compete at a low margin. So you're buying our services at a premium cost. And with that comes loses because some people want it cheap. But what it's allowed us to do is eat other people's lunch that have become complacent because they can't service the client as well, because the margins they've negotiated has been so small, and therefore the clients need love and care and attention, and that's exactly what we do. There's still loads more we're doing with that brand, and we've got some great things that I feel really passionate about that we're launching, but I'm so pleased. We recruited someone who that is running that, and that again, I think more than actually the launch of the business, recruiting talent that's better than you, I think is the biggest win.
Yep.
Because I couldn't have done that without her or without someone doing that for me, because I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, and 100% true. Like, recruiting someone better than you at that particular skill is going to get you further faster for sure.
Yeah.
Without the aggro.
Absolutely.
Do you think that, so sort of looking at the market, do you think that business has been right place, right time? Do you think it's the proposition? Do you think there's been a shift away from transactional recruitment services, particularly in companies that are larger where they recruit at scale looking for some sort of outsource solution? So do you think maybe your business has just moved from one side to the other, or is it there's still plenty enough to go around?
I think at the time when we launched the business, there was a need for there was a space for clients that so most of our clients we have a handful, but they aren't massive businesses. They are medium-sized businesses that the big agencies are ignoring or can't service or won't look at, and the smaller agencies haven't got the capacity or infrastructure. So there was this kind of like middle part of the market that we were able to tap into. Looking forward, I think, I don't want to talk about AI, but I'm going to talk about AI.
Okay.
I think there's a place where it will transition slightly again. It will transition massively again. And I'm very aware of that. But I just don't believe that there isn't need for a human interactive relationship at that level. I do believe there are massive fundamental parts of the role that can be replaced, fine. But I still think that the relationships with humans need to be there. And it's really funny, isn't it? Because I was in a room last week at a recruitment event, and everyone was saying, we've got this piece of AI and we're different and we're going to go to market. And I sat there and I thought, if all of you are using AI to replace all of your people, you're all doing the same thing. So if I don't do some of that and I have a USP, it's actually me that has the USP and you guys have none.
Yep.
So I kind of have a different outlook on it. I think it's there and you've got to embrace it, but I also don't want to follow everyone with it.
So, if I get on the AI track, that's the end of the conversation.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. But I think, look, the one thing about AI, and we can have a separate conversation about that anytime you want, and I know everyone's talking about AI, and it's actually already being talked about to the point where it's actually quite dull as a topic because it's just a tool.
Yeah.
And I agree with you in spite of what people think, that it's still a human-to-human business. It's just about having humans do the right things.
Okay. And
when I walk into recruitment agencies and I see highly skilled communicators that are hired by the company because they're great on the phone, they're great people, they should be in front of customers, and I watch them stare at LinkedIn for 5 hours a day, it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
And I think, why would you hire someone with that personality to stare at a screen when actually what you want them to do is to get on the phone and communicate? So if AI can help people line up better opportunities on the phone, so when they have a more meaningful conversation, it results in a better relationship or future relationship, everybody wins.
Yeah.
But when you've got really good communicators being paid pretty good money to stare at LinkedIn for 5 hours, it's just destroying.
Do you know what though? Right, one more AI point. Sorry. Everyone that I know has done something innovative within the AI space.
Yep.
When I ask them what the ROI on it, no one ever gives me an answer.
Yeah.
And that worries me. Why am I going to spend $100,000 on a bit of tech but still be recruiting the same amount of people and doing the same roughly things and not make any more money?
Yeah, 100%.
I don't get that.
Okay, so I'll use that to segue out of AI, right? Because that's actually not just about AI.
Yeah.
So if, you look at my career lifespan in recruitment, and here we go. We used to have a card box and it was terrible, right? No one bills any more now than they did then.
The $7,000 threshold, $8,000 threshold.
Nobody, yeah. Right, right. The threshold argument, right? It's still the same and nobody's really billing any more. Yet the technology that's on their desk is it's like man on the moon stuff, unbelievable in terms of CRM systems, sourcing bots, all sorts of kit. So the issue for businesses is that, actually I did a previous podcast with a guy called Link Markham who did a lot of work and at BP and places like that. He's amazing. And their technology, they used to count their technology as a headcount cost. So they'd equate it, right? Because they were saying we're making people that effectively is doing a job that used to be a human, and not AI, just technology. But then their managers were measured on the fact that was still a direct cost of delivery, like it would have been a headcount.
Like a headcount.
Yeah. So therefore, if you can't get some level of efficiency out of the technology, then why did you have the technology in the first place? So it makes, and we were talking about this sort of on the way down, but it makes no sense to me that with all this technology deployed, the board or the leadership of that organisation doesn't set itself an objective to say, look, if we're going to invest $100K in technology, we either expect an acceleration in revenue growth or a reduction in cost or an increase in productivity or efficiency or time to hire. There's got to be some gain.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
why do so many businesses not do that though?
Yeah, right, because technology's become hygiene.
Right.
You have to have it, but you don't do anything with it. And, people move from, say, one CRM to another in an agency for no gain. They don't bill more. They don't work any better. It's a little bit of disruption, and then all the consultants hate it anyway. The fact is, really, organisations should say, look, there's an ROI on technology, and it should be a multiplier of the cost.
I'm doing a new CRM, and I'm going to say this. Most people in the business know, so it's not going to be any secret. Our targets are going up because of it.
Yeah,
because they'll be able to do more. We worked out it's going to save every consultant in the business 6 hours a week.
Right.
So those 6 hours a week amalgamates to X amount of new client visits. That means that much more business. Not unachievable increase, but an increase.
Right.
But I think the problem is as well is when we've chose the CRM and we've chose the technology, it's actually, again, go back to the philosophy around it's not really my business, it's everyone else's. They've chose the technology. They've marked it, they've seen it, they've gave us our list of things. Like if there's one thing you could take away from me that would make me do more money is this. We've packaged the CRM around exactly what they say they need to increase their revenue.
Yeah.
So when I hear people talk about tech as a whole, and I say, right, okay, my one question is, what ROI have you seen? And they say, well, we've got a bit faster at this, but not really sure.
It should be a complete measurable.
My mind. Yeah.
Management teams and boards should be looking at technology and recruitment and saying, well, what's the benefit of it?
Yeah.
And therefore, how do I measure it? How do the management team have to get more? I mean, even down to the cost of the technology should be reflected in thresholds.
Yeah.
Because if that's that desk is almost like their own business.
Yeah.
You provide them with a desk, a chair, a phone, a computer, a CRM, all the sourcing technology, it should be part of the threshold. The old $7,000 threshold should be whatever it is today. But I don't know anyone that really does that.
It blows my mind. And I just think the whole threshold piece, I know businesses that still pay commission out before a threshold that must not make any money. Like, I know what my cost of seat is for someone to sit in my business.
Yeah.
And everyone in my business knows how much it costs to employ them. So why would I pay someone before the business has even made £1?
Well, because I think, there's a lot of hocus pocus in recruitment, right? Around people can blow out the top line by hiring a lot of people in the old school way to drive up the top line but not get any material benefit at the bottom line. And it's cheating.
Yeah.
Because you just you fill the office full of aggregate levels of underachievement that adds up to a bigger top line number. But the bottom line might stay the same or even get worse.
Yeah.
But people sort of strut around saying, well, I've grown 25% at the top line.
Yeah, I've got 100 people.
So what?
Yeah.
It makes no sense. There's no skill in that, and it's not sustainable either. You can't do that forever. But a lot of agencies have done that. It's the, sort of build it and they will come sort of theory, throw a lot of bodies at it and, off you go. And again, it's silly things like targets. I go to meetings and, in 1995, they had the 100K club. In 2024, they still had the 100K club.
Yeah.
Why? Salaries have gone up.
Well, inflation.
Technology, everything. 100K is actually not that good a year.
No.
But average productivity in the industry hasn't really moved ever.
Surely that is just going to combust at some point, right?
It has to.
Because businesses just can't survive if they're not making money.
Right. And that's the sort of, without, this is not about me, but Satori Partnership, when we started that business as a consultancy business, the reason we did it is because there's no legitimate consulting offer to the recruitment sector. So agencies hire non-execs who are usually veterans of the industry who actually, to be honest, and I'm one of them, what are they telling you? It's comforting to have someone with grey hair who's been there, done that, but actually they've got no idea what technology is about, AI, and they're still propagating the same old stuff that they did 20 years ago. Actually, they're not offering you a versatile range of service. So, our situation is trying to put people in place that understand project management, technology, innovation, design thinking, data, because that's the future.
Yeah.
It's not.
Sorry.
That's right. It's, the past is not repeatable. I mean, that is one thing that's for sure about recruiting, in my mind anyway, that the next 10 years will look nothing like the last 10.
No.
Because we're at this sort of tipping point with technology, with remote working, with regulation, with globalization, with generational change in the workforce. That's all this perfect storm about how people change, right? And therefore the industry just can't be the same.
So I've got two questions. I've got two trails of thought, actually. I've got two things that have sprung to mind since you've been speaking. One, let's just say the industry now 100%. What percent of those businesses do you think just won't move?
Okay, so good question. So a lot, the majority. And the reason is, well, the business is segmented up, right? So the top of the funnel is the big, large institutional corporates. And we already know they're migrating because they're all setting up consultancy practices or other sorts of services because they realise that the transactional markets they're in are being contracted or there's downward pressure on margin or whatever. So they're looking for other greenfield revenue opportunities. The mid-tier, there's a choice. So either the owner of that business, most recruitment companies in the mid-tier are for sale. right? They might not say that publicly, but that's their ambition, or they're a lifestyle business.
So do you think the bigger ones will eat the smaller ones?
I think okay, so what I actually think is going to happen is that because of technology and those that are more able to acquire technology, to use technology, to have a growth mindset within their business, not a transactional mindset. If there was 100 jobs available in the market and 10 agencies share them equitably, so there's plenty of market to go around. Those that are more able to move quicker and better and at a better price point will eat more of the pie. So you'll get one agency fill 50 jobs, and now there's only 50 jobs left for the other 9 agencies. So the market share available to those that are not agile will contract. And then you've got to be the best of the 9 just to get the same amount of pie you got last year. You then have to innovate. So it will drive some people out of the market. It will drive aggregation. It will drive people toward thinking a bit more agile. But yeah, there'll be people that won't be here. And this year alone, one of the trade bodies I've spoken to, this calendar year, in the first half of the year, they had significantly more closures than they had in the entire previous year.
Wow.
Because it's not that easy and you've got to be nimble. The other reality is that a lot of, and I mean this respectfully, although probably doesn't sound it, owners of mid-tier agencies probably were recruiters out of the 80s, 90s, noughties that learned the business a certain way.
Yeah.
And, they've had great success financially. They've got big houses, big cars. They're having a nice time. There's a lot of pressure on them to do that. They're just not for changing.
Yeah.
They don't see it. Their view, when I meet them, they think I'm talking complete voodoo. It's like, why are you saying that? It's just an easy job. The market will recover. You read all these articles. I read LinkedIn stories. I think you're propagating that myth because it suits you. But that has got nothing to do with
but let them think that, 'cause that's quite nice. Let them think that and then we can go.
Yeah, you're a nicer person than me. I mean, I look at that stuff and feel like I want to call them out and say, you're talking complete crap. Like that is just not true. So for me, the market's sort of segmented up. There'll always be entrepreneurs that enter the market.
Yes.
But increasing those entrepreneurs will not be conventional, traditional recruitment entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
If you look at the tech development, there must be 20,000 products that are being developed for the recruitment market, of which, 100 will survive.
Yeah, mad.
But people are putting their time and money in because they see it as automatable, as a process. And in fact, one of the questions I ask a lot of people, and I'm not going back to AI, but,
You're trying.
Well, who's the buyer?
Yeah.
What if a machine's buying people? Right? Because the reality is we're talking about this in the recruitment context, but all of our clients are weaponizing with technology as well.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons, you talked before about, individual consultants just this year maybe build less. Has any of that been because your clients have become more weaponized? So they've recruited the same number of people. It's just they didn't need you as much because they've got better tools, better technology.
No.
Okay, it's just because they just recruited less people.
Yeah. And I think that going completely to a different subject is one of the challenges with the recruitment market and the talent market is that I still think there is a lot of clients that don't understand the importance of good tools and relationships to recruit the right people. Yeah. It's like one of the last things in the agenda. We're seeing that change. In boardrooms, you've now got head of people that are joining boards and various, there is a change within that. But I still don't think people is the top agenda in a boardroom.
Yeah, which is mad, right?
It should be. It's the only way that a business is run.
Yeah.
But it's still not.
So let me throw, we didn't, as you can tell, we're just having a chat. But so here's one of the things I think is interesting, right? So where I come from Australia, and most degrees and things like that in Australia are vocational.
Okay.
But when I came to the UK, I was shocked to find out that you can do a geology degree and become a lawyer, right?
Yes.
It made no sense to me, right? How come? Now, with apprenticeships and other things in the UK raising prominence, and then you hear all the stuff about, well, a degree's not the be-all and end-all, are we going to start to see the class structure of employment break down where actually people don't care whether you're a pest controller or a chartered accountant? Because in the UK, a lot of people gravitate towards the the status of the job, the industry you're in, regardless of like you can make more money as a train driver than most other jobs, right?
Yeah.
So particularly now.
Yeah.
So do you think that's going to influence the world of work? Like, is it going to be this gravitation to vocational training, apprenticeships, hire, train, deploy models, reskilling, where actually the workforce is going to really become dynamic and employers are going to get rid of their bias and their sort of too posh to push idea that, you don't need a graduate to drive a van. You need a van driver to drive a van.
Yeah, big question.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I think, God, I'm probably quite uneducated in this topic to give a proper answer. And it's really funny actually because I have this debate, and I had it yesterday on LinkedIn about would an employer prefer one job for 10 years or one business, having worked 10 years in the same business, or 10 years within 5 different companies. Yeah. And 80% of a poll that I did said 5 different companies instead of one. So I think that the mindset of that traditional, you've got to stay in a job and it's a life job, is massively changing. Will in the next 10 years it matter? I don't know. I don't know whether if you look at the split of university as a topic, I think the way that people learn is changing massively. It's not books and reading and writing. You can literally type a question into AI and get your answer straight away. So I think universities need to, and they are developing different ways of learning. Attention spans are reducing massively. So I think that there's a whole piece and topic on education as a whole. Don't get me started on that. And then I think the fluidity of the market and the ability to change, I have definitely seen that massively in the last 5 years, even just in terms of people we're recruiting. I've recruited a lady in her 50s that worked at Goldman Sachs as a director. Why she wanted to join recruitment? I mean, hey, great, she's brilliant. And recruitment is an industry that you can have that fluidity because there's no barriers to entry. But I think the outlook on work as a whole will definitely change. I think that it's now okay to have more than one job. It's okay to work from where you want to work. I think it's okay to have side hustles. There's loads of that. People don't want to work 5 days in an office necessarily. They want to work 3 and sell stuff online for the other 2. So I think there will be a transition. But again, I don't know what it will look like. But I also think, and this is a subject I actually feel really passionately about, loneliness is increasing.
Yep.
Massively. And that links with depression, right? So I do also believe that there might be a 360. People want to feel belonged and a place to go to. And the more independence that people are having because they realise they can work from home in their pyjamas, but it's causing loneliness and unhappiness. I don't know whether generations are going to start becoming wise to that and going, actually, no, I want to go to work and have friendships and I want to have a social life. So I wonder how much of it actually might come back round.
Yeah, that I fully agree with. I spend too much time thinking about this stuff, but, work is not just about earning money.
No.
It's about your social identity. It's about where you build relationships, you meet people from different backgrounds. Mm-hmm. It is a really important part of social fabric.
Yep.
Which is why at the government level, they are concerned about completely remote working.
Yeah.
Because
they're concerned about loneliness.
Yeah, right. They're concerned about all the social side effects of it, not just the tax revenue or the loss of productivity or the corner shop that doesn't sell sandwiches at lunchtime anymore. It's a social cost around mental health.
Agreed.
And, all that sort of stuff because people are just staying at home.
Yeah.
They're not out and about. They're not meeting other people. And, this is way out of my pay scale, but society needs, therefore, to accommodate, to create other infrastructure where people might go to co-working spaces or actually do a lot more community-based stuff during the day in order to get that interaction with other humans that they don't get if they don't go to work. So I'm sort of old school. I think the idea of knowledge transfer is great. I also think the idea of actual social interaction and having to adjust and develop your skill set around all sorts of different people, work is so fundamental.
I agree.
To how that happens, and
it goes further than that, right? So I couldn't even count on my fingers how many people I know that have met their partners, wives, husbands through work.
Right.
So I think this kind of like whole brain rot by sitting on your phone and sitting in front of a device constantly is really dangerous.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm trying to bring up my children to have a completely different outlook. Whilst, okay, of course they need to understand AI and they need to understand, they need to have a phone. You can't shield them from that because that's also dangerous. But I really want to encourage my children to get up and go out and talk to people. And so even when I think about the next generation or the generation that might just actually voice note and not ever have a telephone call, I actually hope that it doesn't get to that, because I think if that happens, we're all just going to be really sad humans.
Yeah, I mean, well, you talked about purpose earlier, and it's like, then what is the purpose? Mm-hmm. What are we all trying to do? And there are all sorts of models and experiments going on around, how does society function? But the reality is, I'm with you. I think it's the human piece is important, and work is such a fundamental reason. And again, I think this, back to that vocational kind of point, that, 4-year-olds get taught how to code at preschool, right? And that's what they're doing. So who's going to do my electrical work or fix my car?
Yeah.
Right. Or actually it'll fix itself maybe. But, where's the next plumber coming from?
Yeah.
Right. Because everybody's being navigated down a digital path. And I get that. But, obviously the most secure job in the whole world is hairdresser. Because AI is not going to replace.
I've even seen machines that do nails for you now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's not a problem I've had yet, but
Nails,
you never know.
Eyelashes, the girls that get their eyelashes done, machines that can do it.
Okay.
Scary.
Maybe it's not so secure.
I don't think it's that safe.
About retraining.
I haven't seen the hairdressers, but I think it's
I was going to retrain as a hairdresser. I
think you'd be great at it.
Yeah, I think so too, although I'd like more hair. But,
you'd be good at the chat.
Yeah. But I think the world we work in is so dynamic, right? It's not just about transactional, get a job for someone. It's it's dynamic in that it's got so much more to it than just filling jobs. And, as an industry, diversity and inclusion is still a challenge.
Yeah.
Right? It's a challenge on a number of levels.
Sorry.
Inclusion when it comes to how we represent candidates and actually represent the brand of our clients is an issue, because recruitment consultants don't always adopt and own the values of the brand they represent, but actually that's true. That's what they're doing. Yeah. And secondly, within the industry, it's still not that diverse. You're a woman that runs a recruitment business, and you have, some very strong women that are in leadership roles in your business. And
80% women.
Right, and you're mum of 4.
Yep.
Right, so you're a great role model and, poster girl for, what should be right in the industry. But how do we get better at that sort of stuff? Because there are other agencies, by the way, that, are still, ripping their shirts off, placing people in jobs, just think that the more booze you can drink is, because I'm a recruiter. And I think do you see that viral video a few months ago that went around? I won't name the agency.
I know, which one?
But yeah, they've got a beauty bar and all this sort of stuff.
A beer tap.
Yeah, beer tap. And I'm like, oh my God, that's all the things that make me sick about the industry. But where are you on the diversity and that sort of stereotypical recruiting, and how do we break out of that stuff? Or are we kind of there and I'm old?
So I probably controversially think that the whole DE&I piece is quite often to tick boxes. And I think the real challenge is that people are scared to have good conversations about it because they're scared of offending people. For me, so look, in my business, there's 80% women, right? And that's a problem because we're not equal. And what I find really challenging is to attract more men or more diverse people into my business. Unfortunately, in any kind of company that you have, you tend to find that the people apply are people that feel that they're going to fit in with that look or that demographic or whatever it might be. And so actually when we've done some work on this, you look at our shortlists, I can't remember the exact stat, but the majority of people that apply to work for us are women. So we are already at a disadvantage of trying to recruit a more diverse workforce. So I think there's loads of work to be done within the industry. I really do. I don't think it's a massively diverse place. I think that we need to become more open-minded, but I think it really just starts from having really good conversations and not like I read articles and I see kind of like this whole like council mentality where someone might say something and because it isn't politically correct, they get absolutely abused. I think that's the wrong approach. I think we need to just educate by good conversations and make it really accessible to talk about and say, hey, look, like if I was a man here and I said my business is 80% men, I'd get quite a lot of abuse. But because I'm saying it's 80% women, I'll get clapped for that. And that's not right either.
Yep.
So I just think that we kind of have a really warped way of looking at it.
Yeah, I don't think that's just unique to recruitment, by the way. I think that particular example is typical on too many industries. And, I work, my other life inclusion's part of what we do. But I think as an industry, and I'm not going to go commission, but like the way we pay people creates bad behaviours. Mm-hmm. And one of those bad behaviours, apart from the fact that, people don't necessarily earn more in recruitment than they used to, one of the bad behaviours is it's the idea of just fill the job. Mm. And all the clients that we represent, not many exceptions to that now, talk a lot about their inclusivity, accessibility, diversity, gender balance, acceptance, safe place to work. But the consultant who fills that job, none of those things come into their head.
This goes back to the whole people strategy.
Right.
It's not happening. The right conversations are happening to tick boxes.
Yeah.
And then it's not being infiltrated across the business.
Right.
So the hiring managers or the agency that's supporting need to have the same values and the same outlook. Otherwise, you are not going to change the dial on that at all.
Right. So therefore, one possibility is that if agencies are committed to mirroring that value, they have that, they'll attract customers with the same value system and they'll all then sail off into the sunset and be successful.
That'd be nice.
Because they are aligned.
Yeah.
Whereas we're still in that age where, people they target companies because they think they're hiring or they got a lead, and they chase it up. But actually, things like B Corp, for example.
Yep.
I mean, that is, I don't know how effective it is, but it is initially was very effective in aligning companies with a similar value system together.
Yeah.
That within a community they would all work together.
Yes.
Because actually we've all got something in common. Mm-hmm. But actually outside of things like that, there's none of that. The purpose piece isn't joined up with the customer.
Yeah.
Or the candidates even. It's like we're just a conduit.
Yeah.
But actually in the future, maybe that's one of the important ingredients about growth is finding kindred spirit clients that actually we share their values and they share ours.
I just don't think that works in real life. And I tell you the reason why is because when you actually look at if I'm going out to recruit 10 new roles, I can take my time with them and I can be choosy and I can partner with great agencies that I believe that fit my values and all the lovely stuff with the rainbows and unicorns. But if I'm under pressure and I need to recruit someone in my team because the 5 people that are left, because the 2 have gone, the 5 people that are still in my team are doing all the work and I've got external pressure, internal pressure from my customers, X, Y, and Z, and an agency lands a CV on my desk that is going to fit that role and there's only one candidate, that's going to be the candidate that gets it. It just doesn't work in real life.
Yep.
I actually think that any policy or process doesn't work in real life. I think it is about education and conversation because ultimately you can manipulate processes, you can manipulate values. I can lie to you and say that I believe in all the same things. The proof is about actually living and breathing it every day in the decisions that you make. And I also do have a massive problem with diversity being explained the way that it does. And maybe I'm going to be cancelled off this podcast, so maybe don't release this for a little while. But just because the colour of my skin or the age or the sex that I am doesn't mean I'm more diverse than the person next to me. It's really perspective that I think makes people diverse and backgrounds and beliefs. And so just because I have 80% women, I don't necessarily feel the need to go and recruit more men because they might just be just like me but a man. It's more about some of the recruits that I've made might on paper look like me but have had different upbringings, have had different perspective, have different qualifications. So I have a real issue with thinking, okay, diversity is a way that we define our physical appearance. That bothers me.
Yeah. diversity of thought and culture is just as critical, right? But the way I look at it, and the people I work with look at it, is I guess it's about inclusion first, because diversity is a flawed concept in itself, right? Because if you're trying to be diverse, now you're biased.
That's exactly my point.
So you're forcing the fit.
Yeah.
Whereas actually inclusion as a concept is everybody's welcome. And if you're the right fit, you're the right fit. And technically, if everybody took that view, you would end up diverse.
Yeah.
Because it's not possible not to be diverse.
Yeah.
Like, I find it very difficult as a man. So I'm involved in judging awards for the industry every year. And I see the presentations and representations from businesses to win awards, and I look at their board construction. Now, I would say there's still a very high percentage of boards that are white middle-aged men. Now, there's usually a tokenistic woman, probably the marketing director or the HR director, right? Probably not a fully fledged board member. How is that possible?
Yeah.
That is not possible. That you could get to the level of having a board of directors where there's not equitable representation of not just gender, but all sorts of backgrounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yet there's still predominantly white men, and we've gone through this massive gender pay gap inquiry and all that sort of stuff. But when I get recruitment companies present nominations to win awards and I go, you're all 40 to 50-year-old white men, and yet the industry has a large proportion of women, and a lot of women at leadership, and a lot of people from different ethnic backgrounds, racial backgrounds, faith backgrounds, disability categories, and they're not represented at the top of the industry. And that makes no sense to me. So, this whole inclusion concept within the industry, and, I know there are people out there that work hard to change, but I also see their posts on LinkedIn about the frustration and almost exhaustion, and we're not representing our customers and candidates and clients in the best way, but we don't mirror it internally either. There's no inclusive thought. It's just
No. Do you know, it's really interesting. So from a board perspective on my board at OA, I invite different people all the time. So I have people that sit in the board for a day and give different perspective, and that's really interesting. The whole female leadership, I really try and steer away from this topic because I have a different outlook to quite a lot of other females. I really don't think that many female put themselves forward to their table.
Yeah.
And I think that we do ourselves a disservice. I'm not saying discrimination doesn't happen, because it does. I have been in many meetings and situations myself where I have been judged based on my appearance, and I'm okay with that because I don't want to work for or with people that have that outlook. So I think that women need to stand taller. We need to be more aware and proud of what we can offer and put ourselves forward. I think men do themselves far more justice and put themselves forward for far more things, therefore naturally get to those positions over females. I think females trying to create different tables. There is so many female women networking groups. There are very few male, men, boy, because women sometimes like to call themselves girl bosses, which is just another whole topic, boy networking groups. Why? Like, if we don't want to have a disparity, we want to sit at the same table as men, because that's where most of them are at boards, then why are we creating these offside networks for women? We should be creating inclusive networking groups that enable women to talk to the people that are currently in power. I feel sometimes like women just need to be prouder and more forthcoming with what they can offer, and that should put more people there.
And here's the weirdest thing, right? So I have a view on that.
Okay.
But in my head, I'm saying, don't do that because you're a white middle-aged man, and therefore don't have an opinion on that. Yeah, don't, because you can't win having an opinion one way or the other on that topic. Because when we put this online and people watch it, in terms of you're able to express that, but I am conscious of the fact that if I expressed a view agreeing or disagreeing with you, then I will get called out for it.
I think it's really complicated, right? Because I think women have children. Like for me, I'm going to talk personally. I have 4 children, right? So that in itself really hinders confidence when it goes back to going into the workplace. I'm different because I have my own business, but it still had an impact on me. But men don't have that impact. You know, men are also fathers, but we don't talk about men returning after they've had children. So there is just this definite disparity between the two when it comes to what we believe in ourselves that can be achieved.
Yeah.
I was never going to have anyone tell me I could or couldn't do something. But for some reason, so many other females that I meet have that. They'll stay in jobs and say, you know, I'm not able to get on the board because I only work 4 days a week. Well, then leave your company and go and work for a different business that will have you on the board, you know? So I just think we're not going to change the minds of these men that don't want women on their boards. We're not going to, but we can change the job that we're in, and we can go and work and find our people that do accept us for what we offer. And I think that's what women have got to be more stronger with.
Yep. And I have, over my career, overwhelmingly worked with some amazing women that, you know, have been so influential, not just on businesses I work for, but also my own career, and still continue to do so, which is, you know, because I'm, you know, maybe I'm something about me, but, you know, that I see people professionally first. And, you know, if people are amazing at their job, then great. Yeah. I'm interested in what they've got to say and what I can learn, and everything else comes after that. I'm conscious of time, and you and I could talk about 100,000 things, but I want to ask you one thing to sort of wind this up, and maybe we'll have to do this again.
Okay.
Because it's too much to talk about. But I was an accidental recruiter.
Yes.
So I went for an interview as a candidate, and they said, why don't you become a recruiter? And I thought, that looks dead easy. And yeah, sure, why not? And then I always had the view that if I didn't like it, I'd place myself in a job, right? That. And I wanted to work in a sports company. So I would always look at the jobs from sports companies and going, oh, you know, do I want to do recruitment? I should have put myself forward. Were you destined to be a recruiter because of how you came into the industry? Like, was it your predetermined destiny that was the path? Or had you, up until one point in life, decided you were going to do something completely different, and then you're actually an accidental recruiter as well?
I'll tell you something really sad about me. I used to read business books for fun, which is very sad. I did business studies at school, and it was business all day long for me. I liked the idea of you put £1 there and it turns into £10 there, and how does that happen? Whether that was in recruitment or that was in another role, I kind of didn't really care. I just knew I wanted to be in a place where I could work out the fundamentals of turning £1 into 10. Recruitment was a great fit for me because, you know, you are running your own business. I've learned a lot about business whilst being a consultant, and I think that's what so many consultants don't grasp. The commercialities that recruitment consultants walk away with is massive, and I really enjoy sales. So was I an accidental recruiter? Yes, but it was my place.
Yeah, well, that's definitely true, and I know the work you do for the industry and your business, and I, you know, follow you online, and I get the good fortune to catch up with you from time to time, and we have these massively complex conversations, and we just happen to record one today. But Laura, look, it's been fun. Let's do this again. You know, I think there's plenty more to unpack. We will have a dedicated session on AI where you and I, they'll have to put us in different rooms.
I might let you down for that one.
We don't attack each other. Yeah, that's brilliant. Laura, thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.